Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 11, we begin a new chapter, the transcendental qualities of Vritrasura. So there is an introduction by Srila Prabhupada, I'll read that. This chapter describes Vritrasura's great qualities. There? I'll read. When the prominent commanders of the demons fled, so the battle began in the last chapter, we saw that. So when the prominent commanders of the demons fled, not hearing Vritrasura's advice, Vritrasura condemned them all as cowards. Speaking very bravely, he stood alone to face the demigods. When the demigods saw Vritrasura's attitude, they were so afraid that they practically fainted. And Vritrasura began trampling them down. Unable to tolerate this, Indra, the king of the demons, the king of the demigods, threw his club at Vritrasura. But Vritrasura was such a great hero that he easily caught the club with his left hand and used it to beat Indra's elephant. Struck by the blow of Vritrasura, the elephant pushed back 14 yards and fell, with Indra on its back. King Indra had first accepted Vritrasura as his priest and thereafter killed him. Reminding Indra of his heinous activities, Vritrasura said, "If one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and depends on Lord Vishnu in every respect, then victory, opulence, and peace of mind are all inevitably available. Such a person has nothing for which to aspire in the three worlds. The Supreme Lord is so kind that he specially favors such a devotee by not giving him opulence that will hamper him devotional service. Therefore, I wish to give up everything for the service of the Lord. I wish always to chant the glories of the Lord and engage in His service. Let me become unattached to my worldly family and make friendship with the devotees of the Lord. I do not desire to be promoted to the higher planetary systems, even to Dhruvaloka or Brahmaloka, nor do I desire an unconquerable position within this material world. I have no need for such things." So we begin. Most of the verses have only translations. Verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha. I will chant the verse which we will chant together. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Ta evam samshato dharmam vachah pratyurachetasah नैवाग्रहणन्त संभ्रांताः palayana paranripaha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, "O King Vritrasura, the commander-in-chief of the demons," Sri Shukadev Goswami said, "O King," he's talking to Parikshit Maharaj, "O King, Vritrasura, the commander-in-chief of the demons, advised his lieutenants in the principles of religion, but the cowardly demoniac commanders, intent upon fleeing the battlefield, were so disturbed by fear that they could not accept his words." So the demons have started fleeing away because they saw that all their arrows and different weapons which were being used to counteract the forces of the devatas, were all becoming useless, and and they were losing in the battle, so they are starting to run away. Intent upon fleeing the battlefield, were so disturbed by fear that they could not accept his words. Vritrasura has said, "Why are you running away? You must die a glorious death if you wish to die. So do not run away. And this is you will either attain the higher planets if you are killed in the battle, or if you win, anyway the kingdom is yours. So you should not run away." So that was the background of the previous chapter. But they could not. They started running away. So Shukdev Goswami is narrating. Verse number 2 and 3. Visaryamanam pratanam asurim asurarshabha kalanukalais tridashaihi kalyamanam anathavat drishtva tapyata shankrudha Indra shatroramarshitaha tan nivaryau jasa rajan nirbhatsyedam uvachaha. O King Parikshit, the demigods, taking advantage of a favorable opportunity presented by time, attacked the army of the demons from the rear and began driving away the demoniac soldiers, scattering them here and there, as if their army had no leader. Seeing the pitiable condition of his soldiers, Vritrasura, the best of the asuras, who was called Indra Shatru, the enemy of Indra, was very much aggrieved. Unable to tolerate such reverses, he stopped and forcefully rebuked the demigods, speaking the following words in an angry mood. Verse number 4. Kim va uchariter matrur dhvad dhavadbhi prishthato hataihi nahi bhita vada shlaghyo na swargyah suramaninam. Translation. O demigods, these demoniac soldiers have taken birth uselessly. Indeed, they have come out from the bodies of their mothers exactly like stool. What is the benefit of killing such enemies from behind while they are running in fear? One who considers himself a hero should not kill an enemy who is afraid of losing his life. Such killing is never glorious, nor can it promote one to the heavenly planets. This is a purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vritrasura rebuked both the demigods and the demoniac soldiers because the demons were running in fear of their lives and demigods were killing them from behind. The actions of both were abominable. When a fight takes place, the opposing parties must be prepared to fight like heroes. A hero never runs from the field of battle. He always fights face to face, determined to gain victory or lay down his life in the fight. This is heroic. Killing an enemy from behind is so inglorious. When an enemy turns his back and runs in fear of his life, he should not be killed. This is the etiquette of military science. Vritrasura insulted the demoniac soldiers by comparing them to the stool of their mothers. Both stool and a cowardly son come from the abdomen of the mother. And Vritrasura said that there is no difference between them. A similar comparison was given by Tulsi Das, who commented that a sun and urine both come from the same channel. In other words, semen and urine both come from the genitals, but semen produces a child, whereas urine produces nothing. Therefore, if a child is neither a hero nor a devotee, he is not a son but urine. Similarly, Chanakya Pandit also says, Koartha putrena jatena yona vidvan na dharmikaha kanena chakshusha kimva chakshuha pidaivo kevalam. What is the use of a son who is neither glorious nor devoted to the Lord? Such a son is like a blind eye, which simply gives pain but cannot help one see. We continue reading. Yadi vai pradhane shraddha saram va shulaka hridi agre tishtata matra me nached gramya sukhe spriha. O insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the cores of your hearts, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. Purport. Rebuking the demigods, Vritrasura challenged, O demigods, if you are actually heroes, stand before me now and try to show your prowess. If you do not wish to fight, if you are afraid of losing your lives, I shall not kill you. For unlike you, I am not so evil-minded as to kill persons who are neither heroic nor willing to fight. If you have faith in your heroism, please stand before me. Verse number 6. Evam suraganan kruddho bhishayan vapusaripun vyanadvat sumaho sumaha prano yena loka vichetasaha. Shukdev Goswami said, Vritrasura, the angry and most powerful hero, terrified the demigods. With his stout and strongly built body, when he roared with a resounding voice, nearly all living entities fainted. Tena deva gana sarve vritra vishpotanena vai nipetur murchita bhumau yathaiva shanina hataha. When all the demigods heard Vritrasura's tumultuous roar, which resembled that of a lion, they fainted and fell to the ground as if struck by thunderbolts. Mamarda padbhyam surasainyamaturam nimiklitaksham ranaranga durmadaha gam kampayan udyata shula ojasa nalam vanam yatha pater yathonmadaha. As the demigods closed their eyes in fear, Vritrasura, taking up his trident and making the earth tremble with his great strength, trampled the demigods beneath his feet on the battlefield the way a mad elephant tramples hollow bamboos in the forest. Verse number 9. Vilokya tam vajradharotyamarshitaha swashatrave bhidravate mahagadam chikshepatam apatatim sudusanham jagraha vamena karena leelaya. Seeing Vritrasura's disposition, Indra, the king of heaven, became intolerant and threw at him one of his great clubs, which are extremely difficult to counteract. However, as the club flew towards him, Vritrasura easily caught it with his left hand. So the fighting is being described. Sa Indra Shatru Kupito Bhrisham Tayo Mahendra Vaham Gadayoru Vikramaha Jaghana Kumbhasthala Unadan Mridhe Tatkarma Sarve Samapujayan Nripa. O King Parikshit, the powerful Vritrasura, the enemy of King Indra, angrily struck the head of Indra's elephant with that club, making a tumultuous sound on the battlefield. For this heroic deed, the soldiers on both sides glorified him. Airavato Vrita Bhimrishito Vighurnito Dri Kulishahato Yatha Apasarad Bhinna Mukha Sahendro Munchan Asrik Saptadhanur Brishartaha. Translation: struck with the club of Vritrasura like a mountain struck by the thunderbolt, the elephant Airavata, feeling great pain and spitting blood from its broken mouth, was pushed back 14 yards. In great distress, the elephant fell with Indra on its back. Verse number 12. Nasanna vahaya vishanna chetase prayunkta bhuyasa gadam mahatma indromrita Shyandhikarabhimarsha Vita Vyatha Kashtavaho Vatashthe. When he saw Indra's carrier elephant thus fainted and injured, and when he saw Indra morose because his carrier had been harmed in that way, the great soul Vritrasura, following religious principles, refrained from again striking Indra with the club. Taking the opportunity, Indra touched the elephant with his nectar-producing hand, thus relieving the animal's pain and curing its injuries. Then the elephant and Indra both stood silently. Number 13. Satam Nripendra Hava Kamyaya Ripum Vajra Yudhan Bhrater Hanam Vilokya Smaramschatat Karma Nrisamsham Amhaha Shokena Mohena Hasanjagada. O king, when the great hero Vritrasura saw Indra, his enemy, the killer of his brother, standing before him with a thunderbolt in his hand, desiring to fight, Vritrasura remembered how Indra had cruelly killed his brother. Thinking of Indra's sinful activities, he became mad with lamentation and forgetfulness. Laughing sarcastically, he spoke as follows. Shri Vritra Uvacha Dishtya Bhavan Me Samavasthito Ripur Yo Brahmaha Guruha Bhraterha Cha Dishtya Nrino Dhyanam Asattamatvaya Machula Nirbhinna Drishad Dridachirat. Sri Vritrasura said, he who has killed the Brahmana, he who has killed his spiritual master, indeed, he who has killed my brother is now by good fortune standing before me face to face as my enemy. O most abominable one, when I pierce your stone-like heart with my trident, I shall be freed from the debts to my brother. Verse number 15. Yona grajasyatma vido dvijater gurorapapasya cha dikshitasya vishrabhya khadgena shirasmi avrishyat pashoriva karuna swargakamaha. Translation. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you killed my elder brother. A self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahmana who had been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master. But although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his head from the body the way one butchers an animal. Verse number 16. Shri Hridaya Kirtibhir Ujjitam Tvam Swakarmana Purushadaischa Garhyam Krichrena Machula Vibhinna Deham Asprishta Vahanim Samadanti Gridraha. Translation. Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eaters, Rakshasas. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you, only the vultures will eat your body. Verse number 17. Anyenu ye tveha nrisamsham agna yadudyatastraha praharanti mahyam terbhutanatham saganan nishata trishula nirbhinna galair yajami. Translation. You are naturally cruel. If the other demigods, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with the sharp trident. With those heads, I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairava and the other leaders of the ghosts, along with their hordes. Verse number 18. We will chant. Atho hare me kulishena veera harta pramatyaiva shiro yadiha tatra rino bhuta balim vidhaya manasvinam padaraja prapatse. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities, such as jackals and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligations to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narad Muni. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Narottam Das Thakur sings, Eichai Gosai Jar Mohitar Das, Tasabara Padarenu Mora Pancha Gras. Tasabara Padarenu Mora Pancha Gras. I am the servant of the 6 Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet provides my 5 kinds of food. A Vaishnava always desires the dust of the lotus feet of previous Acharya and Vaishnavas. Vritrasura was certain that he would be killed in the battle with Indra because this was the desire of Lord Vishnu. He was prepared for death because he knew that after his death, he was destined to return home back to Godhead. This is a great destination, and it is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. Chhadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Peche Keba. No one has ever gone back to Godhead without being favored by a Vaishnava. In this verse, therefore, we find the word Manasvinam Pada Raja Prapatsye. I shall receive the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees. The word Manasvinam refers to great devotees who always think of Krishna. They are always peaceful, thinking of Krishna, and therefore they are called Dhiraha. The best example of such a devotee is Narad Muni. If one receives the dust of the lotus feet of Manasvi, a great devotee, he certainly returns home back to Godhead. So this chapter, the transcendental qualities of Vritrasura, which we will be seeing later, second half of this chapter, the wonderful qualities of Vritrasura, how exalted a devotee was. This chapter is beginning with the scene on the battlefield. The armies on the side of Vritrasura, the demons, seeing their helpless situation, seeing that their weapons are having no effect on the Devatas led by Indra, because Lord Vishnu's protection was on all the Devatas, they start running away from the battlefield, afraid of losing their life. And when they start running away, Indra, with all the Devatas, grabbed this opportunity, not following the rules of battle. They start attacking them from the rear side. So they are running away, and the Devatas are running behind them and killing them. So Vritrasura gets very angry at this, and he condemns both his army, his side, the demons, he condemns them because they are running away. And as we read, no one should run away from a battlefield because running away is like cowardice. Dishonor, it's like a dishonor. Dishonor is worse than death. So if you fight, you should fight bravely, you should fight heroically. And if you die, you will go back to the upper planets. And if you win, you're anyway going to win the kingdom. So both ways gain. So Vritrasura condemns the demons, and he's condemning Indra also. Condemning Indra because he's killing soldiers who are running away, which should not be done. And so that is what we read now. And then Indra, and then he's got a huge body. We saw how he just, walking over the battlefield and crushing many, many devatas under his feet. And he's completely fearless. He's crushing the Devata's army under his feet. Devata's army under his feet is described as an elephant effortlessly would crush hollow bamboos under his feet. It doesn't take any effort for him. So that is what is being mentioned. And then finally, Vritrasura calls out Indra, and Indra and Vritrasura are standing face to face. And now the fight is continuing. Indra picks up his club and throws at Vritrasura, and that club is something that hardly anyone can counteract, but Vritrasura easily catches it in his left hand and strikes it back at Indra, and it goes and hits Indra's elephant, and he throws out blood from his mouth, and the elephant is pushed back 14 feet. And then at that point of time, Vritrasura, although Indra did not follow the law of combat, the law in the battlefield, but Vritrasura is following. So Vritrasura is a greater devotee than Indra, although Indra is also Devata. And so Vritrasura doesn't attack him again. He gives him time to recoup. And then Indra stands, and then Vritrasura and Indra are facing face to face. And the last 2-3 verses, we see how Indra is saying that Vritrasura is telling Indra that I am going to kill you. And in the beginning, one analogy was given that for the demons who were running away, Vritrasura, tells Indra that don't kill them, because if someone is not brave, if someone is coward, that son is unworthy. And he's not putra, he's mutra. Mutra means stool and urine, and putra means a son. So there's no point in having a putra. It's as good as mutra, because they are coward and they're running away. Inglorious children. So now in the last 2 verses here we see Vritrasura is saying he's prepared for both. He's saying he's prepared for everything actually. In the previous verse that we read before the purport, he says, I am going to kill you because you are very, very cruel and you deserve to be killed. And then in the last verse he's saying, but if in this battle you are going to kill me, I am prepared for death. So this, and he says, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living beings, such as jackals and vultures, and it will be my great fortune to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narada Muni. So here in the purport, Prabhupada is writing something, he repeats something very important. So here the point that is being mentioned is in the purport that the talk is all about Vritrasura is going to die. Because he knows, although he says because he was chivalrous, he was brave, he was saying to Indra that he was telling Indra that I will kill you. But actually he knows that he's going to die because he knows that this is the desire of Lord Vishnu. Vritrasura was a great devotee, Chitraketu in this past life. So Prabhupada is writing, Vritrasura was prepared for death because he knew that after his death, he was destined to return home back to Godhead. So this is an important line, should strike us. He was prepared for death. How many of us are actually prepared to die? We are very afraid. Vritrasura's his army, they were not prepared for death, they were afraid of death, and so they were running away. But here Vritrasura is prepared for death. And what does it mean? Suppose somebody asks me, are you prepared for death? I may say yes or I may say no. If we are afraid, we are fearful, which is what the whole world is, they'll say, no, I don't wish to die, I am not prepared for death. But if I say, yes, I am prepared for death, the statement could be in just some ego, yes, you can kill me. Or statement could actually mean that I am prepared for death. So what does it mean to say that yes, I am prepared for death? What does it mean to say? Here it says, he was prepared to death because he knew that after death, he was destined to return home back to Godhead. This is a great destination. So preparing ourselves for death means we should be sure that now I have attained a position that if I die at this moment, I am going back to Godhead. And we have to be prepared for death every moment, because any moment we may meet death. We are on the threshold of death. Every soul, every living entity, every human being who has taken birth, right from the time he has taken birth, He's on the threshold of death because no one can assure when we are going to die. So now comes an important part. We are prepared for death because we are sure that we are going to go back to Godhead. That is the point. That is the point which qualifies you to say that you are prepared for that. Now, how am I going back to Godhead? How do I achieve that destination of? How can I be sure that yes, I am prepared and I'm sure I'll go back to Godhead? How can I be so sure? Is this a statement in ego? Yes, I think I'm going back to Godhead. So here it is mentioned, how are we sure that yes, I'm going back to Godhead? Because I'm sure that I am under the shelter of a person who's going to take me back to Godhead. Now, see here what Prabhupada is repeatedly writing this. This great destination is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. This is the first time he says, number 1. Chhadiya Vaishnav Seva Nistar Peche Keba. No one has ever gone back to Godhead without being favored by a Vaishnava. He repeats it. In this verse, therefore we find the word Manasvinam Pada Raja Praptasya. I shall receive the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees. So these great devotees are qualified to take us back to Godhead. The word Manasvinam refers to great devotees who always think of Krishna. And who are these great devotees who always think of Krishna? They are always peaceful, thinking of Krishna, and therefore they are called Dhiraha. The best example of such a devotee is Narad Muni. If one receives the dust of the lotus feet of a Manasvi, a great devotee, he certainly returns home back to Godhead. So in this part of the this part of the purport, Prabhupada is basically elaborating the translation where it says, Manasvinam Pada Raja Praptasya, where Vritrasura is saying, my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of the great devotee like Narad Muni. So because Vritrasura knows that he is going to receive the dust from the lotus feet of Narad Muni, he is prepared for death because he knows that this is the only way by which I can go back to Godhead. So if I'm going to die, my upper planet, promotion to upper planet, is not just the planet in this material world, but the ultimate, the highest upper planet, the Goloka, the Vaikuntha, and I'm going to go there. So this is a very important point to note, that we are all in this world. Here one battle is happening. This world, we are in this world where, we are fighting so many battles, and we don't know when we are going to meet death. So am I thinking of the future? Am I planning for that destination, the spiritual world? And what does that planning means? That planning means I am strongly connected to a devotee so that he blesses me with the dust of his lotus feet, and so that I can go back to Godhead. Pada Rajobhishekam, elsewhere also it is said. Praptasya, I shall achieve. Now, how will you achieve the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee unless and until you surrender to such a pure devotee? If you don't surrender, I'll take a few minutes extra today. If you don't surrender to the lotus feet of such a devotee, you cannot get the dust of such a devotee if your surrender is somewhere else. So, what is surrendering to this devotee? We cannot surrender to anyone else because this is the only way to go back to Godhead. Here it is said, I am prepared for this destination because it is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. And you have to take the dust of such a Vaishnava. So who is this Vaishnava and what is the meaning of this devotee? What is the qualification of this devotee? If you read the scriptures, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the first place, in the fourth chapter, verse number 34, Krishna is very clearly pointing the qualification of such a devotee to whom we must surrender. Krishna is saying, Tad vidhi pranipatena. Pranipat means surrender. Pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. This is the qualification of a devotee unto whom, and Krishna is saying, pranipatena, to that who's tattvadarshinaha. Tattvadarshinaha means he has actually seen and realized the truth. Only to him Krishna is saying pranipatena, not to anyone else. And then in this chapter itself, actually not this chapter, in chapter number 15, connected to the same Chitraketu story, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, he's again pointing out who is that great soul, that great devotee. What is his qualification? Is he available in many hundreds? Is he available anywhere? Can he just be appointed by someone? Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj is telling to Shukdev Goswami, who is such a person? Muktanam api siddhanam, Narayana parayanaha, Sudurlabha, Prashantatma, Kotishvapi Mahamune. Who is this great soul? He's saying, and this Parikshit Maharaj's realization, not realization of any ordinary person. He's saying, Muktanam api siddhanam. You take people who have attained mukti, liberation from this material world. They're in the Brahman realization. Muktanam. Or you take siddhanam. Those who have achieved siddhi, perfection. They know that this material body is useless. They have also achieved a very high state. Muktanam api siddhanam. And not just these great souls, Muktanam api siddhanam, Kotishvapi. Kotishvapi means these in numbers, they in numbers are by crores, by millions. Millions and millions of Muktanam api siddhanam, Narayana parayanaha. To find one pure devotee who is Narayana parayana. Parayana means completely devoted, completely surrendered. This is what Krishna is meaning in Tattva Darshinaha. Narayana Parayana, how easy it is to get? Maybe one you will get, Sudurlabha. Even one to get is very rare. This is the position of Srila Prabhupada. It is not an ordinary position. Sudurlabha, and such a devotee is Prashantatma. Prashantatma means, so this is his quality. He is Shanta means pacified, satisfied, peaceful, no anxiety. This means a resident of the Vaikuntha world. And all the spiritual masters that come in us Guru Parampara are like this. As Srila Prabhupada said, my spiritual master, he was a Vaikuntha man. Prabhupada himself. And Prabhupada himself, we know, he was a Vaikuntha man. Because Vaikuntha, they are Prashantatma, they are completely peaceful and pacified. So you see, this is the devotee to whom we have to surrender. So this is in the Bhagavatam, Tattva Darshina is in the Bhagavad Gita, and you take any scripture. In the Mundaka Upanishad it is said, Mundaka Upanishad, Sa Gurum Evabi Gached. You have to surrender to that. Tad Vijnanartham Sa Gurum Evabi Gached. You have to surrender to that Guru who is Samit Panihi Shrotiyam Brahmanishtham. Tattva Darshinaha Sudurlabha Brahmanishtham. This is in Mundaka Upanishad. So you see, this is the qualification of a Guru. Brahmanishtham, Shrotriyam. And what is Shrotriyam? Prabhupada translates. Shrotriyam doesn't just mean one who has heard. Shrotriyam means one who has heard actually. But one who has heard and realized all the messages coming in the parampara. And he himself is like that. And he's Brahmanishtham. He's firmly fixed in the absolute truth. So Prabhupada writes, I'll read a small passage, and he's saying this in the year 9, he's lecturing on the Bhagavad Gita, and he's saying this in the year 1967, when ISKCON had just begun, when the preaching had just begun. Prabhupada was very clear, no compromise. Surrendering to a great soul means surrendering to a pure devotee, because only he can take you back to Godhead. No one else can. Here also it is said that unless you are favored by such a devotee, you cannot go back to Godhead. So Prabhupada writes, so you have to surrender, pranipat, no reservation. If you find out such a person, then surrender there. See, every word is important. We surrender to a person, and then we see that he is not living up to that, status. He has compromised his spiritual position. The spiritual position is compromised. He falls into Maya. That is not. Here it is said, so you have to surrender. So I surrender. So okay, I take back my surrender. No, Prabhupada is saying, so you have to surrender, no reservation. No reservation. When will we surrender to someone who is without reservation? Only when I find him qualified. So you have to find out such person, then surrender there. And try to serve him, try to please him, and ask questions to him. And if you do this, Prabhupada is writing, the whole thing will be revealed. But if you don't surrender there to such a person, there will be no revelation of spiritual life. And then further he says, he reconfirms, you have to find out such an authoritative person and surrender under him. You cannot surrender to anyone else if you want to go back to the spiritual world. Surrendering to anyone else means your advancement will also be to a position that person has advanced. And finally, Prabhupada says, what is the meaning of surrendering to him? What is so special about surrendering to him? Prabhupada equates surrendering to such a person is equivalent to surrendering to God. Surrendering unto him means surrendering unto God, because he is God's representative. So this is the position of God's representative. We cannot say, I'll just surrender to God. Yes, surrender to God we are all doing. But how? Through a representative of God who has attained this position. So here we are seeing Vritrasura, he is prepared for death. He knows that he is going to die and is waiting to receive the dust from the lotus feet of Narad Muni and thereby go back to Godhead. So similarly, we are also very, very fortunate. We have Srila Prabhupada with us. He is Brahmanishtam, he is Tattvadarshinaha, and he is that one great rare soul from Muktanam api Siddhanam. He is completely Prashantatma. To him, because we are very safe, actually, we should feel so safe, so fearless, because we know that Srila Prabhupada is there with us. And he has promised that I'll take all my devotees back to Godhead. All that we need to do, one thing, surrender means what? Following him sincerely, seriously. If we follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions sincerely and seriously, which is not difficult at all, we will surely go back to Godhead. So we'll end here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand.